Well, this past June, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors rescinded approval of a project to build sleeping cabins in Spring Valley and lost $10 million in state funding. With funding at risk, county supervisors approved a site for the tiny cabin project in July in Lemon Grove on Troy Street. However, some residents are pushing back, saying they didn't see it coming and expressed their concerns about the cabins meant to serve up to 140 unhoused people. Residents, though, are concerned about the location of the site, saying it's just too close to an elementary school and liquor store and also on a bad intersection with just no sidewalks. A Lemon Grove council member was planning on joining us this morning but was unable to make it. Joining us now is crisis coach Scott Silverman to share reasons why some people might support the project and what that could do to the neighborhood and the community. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for letting me be here. I really appreciate it. And I am not part of the council, and I'm not substituting. I was here in conjunction with.
In conjunction with, yes. So we have both sides. You know, we have folks who are, against it. Other people might be saying, a project like this might help a lot of unhoused people get back on their feet. So just to give a brief background of you, you're the CEO of Confidential Recovery, helping folks with addiction and going from, addiction road to recovery. So tell us about your story and your background.
Well, the journey of transformation is pretty consistent. One needs to have an intervention at some point, one needs to have assessment, and then one needs to have a path to recovery. And that's one of the things that I've been doing for decades, and I think it's really important. And I think the formula of how we help people needs to be consistent, and it has to be a top-down approach and supported at every single level. And
the county is saying that they'll be providing wraparound services like case management, employment help, access to behavioral help. You've obviously been involved in these programs for a long time, so in your own way. So how have these been successful, and what have you seen?
Well, I'm hopeful that the county will do that, and I'm sure if they're planning on it, they will. But when you think about it, when you have a transient population like the unhoused population, there has to be some very strong rules. And I think the new laws coming in California, which I'm sure we'll be talking about, are going to reinforce some of those laws. But when we think about helping people who are having a difficult time helping themselves, we have to have footprints in the sand. There has to be accountability, and there has to be the kind of intervention that's done at the front end and an assessment so we can understand what an individual needs. If we were talking about any other problem in our community, that's the way we would go about it. But when it comes to homelessness, it's not an illness, it's not a disease. These are people who have circumstances that have led to them not having a roof over their head, and because they've been living out in the street, there's mental health issues and substance abuse issues that go along with that. So we need to have those wraparound services.
Right, and I know that some groups of people and like violent offenders, arsonists, registered sex offenders, not going to be allowed. Other folks, maybe with some substance abuse or mental health issues, might be allowed to live there. And I think that's where the concern is with residents is being so close to an elementary school, and hopefully that they'll have help from programs. But what other types of rules typically, not this project in general, but with other projects, have you seen, are there rules to live there? Like you have to go through programs in order to live there or not?
I try not to treat this individual, if you will, differently. For example, when you live in an apartment complex or you live in a condo complex, you have an HOA, you have rules, you have regulations, you park your car funny, you get a citation, and it shouldn't be any different, and we shouldn't be enabling these individuals to a point where we're carving out unique rules. I mean, if you're going to get help from the community or the county and you have issues that are going on, it's important that you participate in your own recovery. It's important that you're accountable. And it should be, in my opinion, because there's a high risk with drugs and alcohol with those who are unhoused, that it's a zero tolerance, I'll call it a complex, wherever it is, whatever part of the community. Those tools are important to mandate that. You can't just let people live for free and let them live the way they want to live if what they're doing is actually hurting themselves and others.
Right, exactly. And really quickly, any success stories that you've seen through people going from, addiction to recovery? You've done this for decades, so there's hope there.
Well, I had nine scattered sites, 175 beds, and we watched people really get well. But we had a program, 2-year follow-up. That's important. It's like diabetes. If you were diagnosed with diabetes tomorrow and you weren't following up correctly, checking your blood sugar level, you would have complications.
Right.
It's the same thing with people who suffer from the disease of addiction or self-medicating. And I've never met anybody who lives out in the streets who says, oh, I'm having a great time here. So I understand why there's substance abuse out there. And right now with the fentanyl problem the way it is,
Huge
methamphetamine on the rise, and cocaine, we have to be ready to protect. These are our people. They're somebody's family member. They're not just a body with the label underneath them, unhoused.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, and of course, and if residents do want to voice their concerns, there are public meetings. The San Diego County Board of Supervisors, December 10th, at the County Administration Building at 8:30, and then Lemon Grove Council meeting as well, December 17th, 6 o'clock, Lemon Grove Community Center. So we'll see how this pans out.
Encourage people to show up, but not only scream and yell, but also listen.
Right.
And I'm not just talking to the community, I'm talking to our leaders. Listen to each other. It's important because the people we're talking about, they're already there. We're talking about finding ways to manage it so we can create some change.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.